This hangout is now live.
This week on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, taking you all the way back to 1963, David and the Reverend Jeff go over the Honey Island Swamp Monster, a classic. It's in Florida, right? Just why has this kept us interested for so many years? We'll look at that. There's a new Quasi and a new Camping Trips for Stupids, plus a little something special after the show, if you follow from our Facebook page. And now, our most bearded host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Hey, y'all, watch this. That's right. I am your host of this mess, the Reverend Jeff Kelly, and we say thank y'all for joining us to the Squatchers Lounge podcast. That's right. 2 weeks off. I know it happens this summertime, and then a day late, but $1 short. But damn it, we're going to get the show off about the Honey Island Swamp Monster. With me, as always, is the Dr. David Backdorf, Esquire, pseudoscientist. How you doing, buddy?
Feeling great, ready for this one, and yeah, let's get some news.
That's right. About this time of the day, we get a little bit newsy, and I saved y'all a whole bunch of it to not have to deal with, so we pared it down quite a bit. Well, that's not going to be fun. That's not going to be fun at all, but I think I can guess which one it is. Thank you, Google, for putting a giant white box in the middle of everything I needed to do tonight. We're going to be all right, though. Let's start out the night with a little bit of, hey, did y'all see this? IFL Science posted up, dead zebra bursts a fountain of blood over a hungry leopard. That's right. Poor bastards trying to scavenge on this dead, bloated zebra, thinking to themselves, nom, 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 this is going to be good. And unlike most things you would think, that's right, wild animals usually start from the asshole in. So, poor little leopard boy here's chewing the hell along, and he's trying to get that gut cavity open. And what happens to him? Well, just like that bloated whale in downtown Japan, sure enough, plop.
Chomp, chomp, chomp.
His gut everywhere.
Damn it, nature, you're terrifying.
Sort of like the directors told the FX guys in Sleepy Hollow, can you squirt Johnny Depp with just a little bit more blood? Yeah, so check that one out at IFL Science. I've actually seen bloated animals poked before, and yeah, it ain't pretty at all.
Yeah.
Dude, hope y'all weren't eating.
If only this were smell-o-vision, right?
Ooh, television. Boy, yeah, Dad. Borneo's deep skull rewrites history of human evolution. That's right. Back in 1958, diggers on the so-called Hell Trench at the western end of the Naya Cave in Borneo uncovered what was undeniably a human skull. At the time, the oldest dated example of a modern human came from a 33,000-year-old male, and researchers incorrectly thought that Homo sapiens directly descended from Homo neanderthalis in Europe. The find, called Deep Skull, rocketed the scientific world. Rocketed it. Woo! Dyslexia is a wonderful thing. When it was found to belong to a human that predated the previous example by 4,000 years, meaning that modern humans existed alongside Neanderthals, at least on this particular. I'm not even going to try it. Today, many think that the human is related to the indigenous Australians, but a new study in the Journal of Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution disagrees. So basically, we don't know shit about what happens when with why, because we don't have enough examples. I mean, that's the older this stuff gets, we just don't know how far back Homo sapiens actually existed on the plains with other Homo-type individuals.
So in our current situation, we are probably experiencing like the genetic reuptake of some of our cousins, but we also had like our great aunts and uncles out there at one point as well. And to think that there weren't like a myriad of Homo sapiens subspecies, which there are not any longer,
that we know of.
Well, that we know of, yeah. Are you going all forest people on me right now?
Well, we are talking about, you know, and a possible extant hominid ourselves here in Bigfoot. We don't even know what Bigfoot is yet.
Yeah. Well, and
could be one of our great aunts or uncles.
it's a primate without a tail. Eventually, we're related to it, and that relation is really like it could be complicated and it could be interesting. It could be fun, but it's probably not related to Gigantopithecus.
No, it's probably not related to a giant bamboo eating ape from. Orangutan from Asia.
Yeah.
Well, like I tried to explain to people, the supposed DNA that we've gotten for Sasquatch, the reason that I feel that it's so close in human DNA that we can't really tell the difference of, apart. We can barely tell chimpanzee apart from us unless we know exactly where to look. So why wouldn't the same be said for any other hominoid great ape species that's that close along the family tree?
Well, genetically, it would be more likely that they're so similar to us and chimpanzees and other apes that we wouldn't know the differences because we haven't sequenced a full genome of a reasonable subject to know what the differences are, right?
Because Melba still tells you that her genome has 100% human female. And if that's the case, she doesn't have a real genome of anything.
Yeah. So yes, and the I don't know. The real thing is
the real thing. Did you just say the real thing with Bigfoot?
Well, yeah. So
that's how you get to be a pseudoscientist.
What you have to understand is that the way that I'm not going to be able to put this together right now. Okay, so this is a whole other episode. But basically, Sasquatch is going to look like human because we don't know what the differentiations are. Even like chimpanzee would look like human if we didn't know what the differences were. So I'll just boil it down to that.
Perfectly well done. Go read this at IFL Science. You can thank Dean Cooper, our quasi-theorist, for sticking that one in the lounge for us. Hey, did you see this one? ABC 57 News. Bear grabs a trash can, walks away on its hind legs. Say, what? Is this a Sasquatch? No, this is a crippled bear in New Jersey who's been there for a while. Actually, I think this one is in Washington. But there's a couple of them.
So I sent you this one. They were talking about the New Jersey bear, which is the bear that has the problems with his no arms, and he has to walk upright, and people are seeing him all over the place. Then I showed you this one where a bear actually comes up in Washington, fully normal bear, and grabs a trash bag and runs away with it.
Walks away on two legs. That's crazy.
Hobbles along. It's very interesting. So you can understand people say, oh, well, I'm the person that's like, you're not going to misidentify a bear as an upright bipedal primate. But, yeah, that looks pretty funny, too.
It is definitely kind of funny because we're right back to what I was just talking about, the footage of the New Jersey bear. They didn't think it would last through the winter. I mean, who would think a bear with injured paws would last, months as it is? But apparently he's made it all the way through the winter and he's back out and running around again. And you can go to nj.com and look for the reports on that. We're just going to skip through it because I don't want to get busted for copyright stuff. Let's see here. Why do animals like capybaras so much? I don't know, but I have seen this in the wild, dude. Literally, a capybara or two will be laying up on the side of a bank, and there will just be dozens of animals laying around this thing. What do they like these giant guinea pigs for?
I mean, they're adorable. I want to hug them, except for they're actually pretty huge. If you look at
there's
like 4 ducks on that one.
Yeah. How many ducks does it take to sit on a capybara? Apparently, 4.
4. Just 4. No more, right. No less.
Because there's 3 more looking for their turn and 4 turtles waiting their turn as well. Yeah, I don't understand it, but in the wild, literally, like these capybaras will walk around and birds will be on their back picking the bugs off of them. They are just miraculously miracle creatures. They taste like guinea pig. They're a little bit like chicken, a little greasy, but boy, there's a lot of back meat there, sort of like a pig.
Maybe that's what everybody's like. Well,
maybe
it's laying down to die, and they're just waiting to scavenge it. Like, hey, man, I was just asleep. What's the deal?
Capybaras are so good. Let's see here. I got this one. Yowie sightings at Kiraville, south of Wollongong, circa the 1990s. What was this? Apparently, some house sitters were being invaded and visited by Yowies, but I didn't get the whole story. It's on Cryptomundo.com. Of course, we like Cryptomundo.com. But since we had the Australia story earlier, I figured I would tell you. We're still not sure how the Yowies got there, but everybody swears they are.
They've got to be. We've gone over this.
Yeah, they got to be there. Cliff Barackman thinks that they're there, and I like Cliff. Out of all the Finding Bigfoot people that are out there, I would trust Cliff's opinion out of any of them. and he thinks that they're there. So I just thought it would be neat. You can check this one out yourself. It was posted on the 26th. Craig Waiters, themundo.com. Hey, this brave lady, look at her, man. Look at, she is just like super brave, right? She's swimming with this giant crocodile. How miserably, horribly misleading is it for the damn crocodile? Poor thing. Seriously, I mean, this predator is giving mouth bites of morsel-sized people all day long, and it can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
2 inches of bulletproof thick plastic is not dangerous.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is one of those situations where you're rethinking your choice to get into the water in the first place, and you get out and you tell everybody, oh yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah.
I pooped my bikini.
I've been in a shark cage with the shark swimming around it, and I've left the shark cage for the protection of the boat. Yes, I am that guy. Mail.com, dailymail.com. You can check out why we have that one. Finally tonight, the jackalopes return to the Yellowstone ecosystem. That's right. After a 93-year hiatus, the elusive jackalope has returned to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. These beautiful yet frightening creatures were once wildly collected by tourists, but better management practices have allowed for reintroduction of a pack to thrive again. These guys have been sporadically spotted all around the West, including Wyoming, Montana, Colorado, and New Mexico. Idaho allowed a shoot-on-sight policy for jackalopes, so they have not been seen there in quite some time. Closely resembling a jackrabbit, the jackalope is actually a member of the hare and antelope family. With an average height of 2 feet, this formidable predator in our ecosystem, they may even compete with our largest grizzlies and wolves for meals. Heading to Yellowstone anytime for a vacation? Well, take your binoculars and stay the fuck away from jackalopes.
Watch out for the jackalopes. I mean, the jackalope question bears kind of the same grizzly reintroduction question as it does here in Washington. Well, are we okay inviting the jackalope back into our neighborhoods? I'm not sure.
I'm not so sure.
I'm
I'm
not
kind of
sure.
happy they were gone from my neighborhoods. Well, here we are once again. That's right, the 4th of July episode of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. It's time for a little bit of quasi-theories from a quasi-scientist, our buddy, Dean Cooper. Yes, I'm delaying as usual because I didn't have the graphic up.
Here's the graphic. Wait
There's
for the graphic.
Here's the graphic. Here's the quasi. And now, quasi-theories from a quasi-scientist with your host, Dean Cooper.
Schrodinger's cat and the trousers of time. At the end of last week's quasi-theory, I made the mistake of mentioning Schrodinger's cat. I've been told by a higher authority, i.e. the Reverend Jeff, that I should somehow expand on Schrodinger's famous thought experiment, even though I specifically said that, and I quote, I refuse to explain Schrodinger's cat. Erwin Schrödinger devised his thought experiment in 1935 to illustrate a problem in applying a quantum mechanics idea to larger complex systems. The idea was that at the atomic and smaller level, quantum systems like electrons, atoms, protons, and such, the actual state of the system is a sort of superposition of all possible states that system could possibly have. It isn't until an outside observation is made that the superposition of all possible states collapse into one specific state. The observer can be anything from another quantum system getting close enough to interact with the system under consideration to a real experimental physicist who does real things and doesn't just play around with mathematics all day. Schrödinger named this weird-ass connection between the observer and the observed entanglement. Although being Austrian, he actually named it Verschränkung, which means, oddly enough, entanglement. So Schrödinger thought that this whole entanglement thingy was absurd, especially since it surely didn't seem to be happening to anything in the normal world. He took, purely in thought, his cat and stuck it in a box. He put a mechanism in the box with the cat, presumably in a way that the cat couldn't play with it and thereby muck up the thought experiment. The mechanism had a bit of radioactive material, a Geiger counter, a trip hammer, and a vial of hydrocyanic acid. When the Geiger counter detects the decay of an atom of the radioactive material, it triggers the trip hammer to smash the vial. The hydrocyanic acid evaporates and becomes cyanide, and presto chango, the cat is dead. There's only a teensy bit of the radioactive stuff, so there's only a small chance at any moment that the cat will be killed. Now, if the whole quantum entanglement theory works on big things, too, the radioactive decay will or won't happen until we open the box. The cat is therefore both dead and alive until we take a peek in the box. Now, here's where it gets weird. Quantum entanglement has been experimentally shown to be real. It has been shown to be real in experiments using around 10 million electrons, as well as 10 million photons. And here's where the trousers of time enter the scene. We have all become familiar with the idea that at any given instant, when we make a decision to do one thing or another, our timeline splits, like the legs of a pair of pants, thereby producing an alternate universe. There's a timeline where we had chocolate instead of vanilla. There's a timeline where we chose strawberry instead. If we're picking from amongst Ben and Jerry flavors with Baskin Robbins thrown in, the legs of the trousers of time become more like pants for a millipede. Schrodinger's cat had only two choices, alive or dead. I ask you, is that poor kitty therefore a zombie? My thanks to the late Terry Pratchett for the beautiful trousers of time metaphor. This has been Dean Cooper, quasi-scientist, enlightening you with my quasi-theory of the week. You may read the text of this on my blog at bydean.com. That's BHAIDIN.com.
All right. That's a hell of a lot better than the normal Schrodinger's cat. Now a little bit of time for camping tips for stupids.
Camping tips for stupids. Tip number 15. Sometimes it's hard to find your sense of direction, and knowing which way you're facing is crucial if you want to be cool and shit. You could use a compass, but those were made by the Red Chinese, and who the fuck knows how to use those heathen contraptions? America! Now, one time-tested method to find out which way is which is to find the wind. Now, you could look stupid and wet your finger and stick it up in the air, but if the wind is hot, it'll catch on fire and hurt like a son of a bitch. No, stupid. The best way to figure shit out is to piss in it. That's right. To find the wind, you gotta piss into the wind. You'll know you found it when it starts pissing right back. And you'll know it's a good wind when you're all soaked head to toe, dripping with hot piss. Congratulations. You're a pathfinder. Now go fight giant Vikings. This has been Camping Tips for Stupids. Remember to spay and neuter your idiot population.
Oh, good Lord in heaven, that's right. Your idiot population must be spayed and neutered. Wow, Camping Tips for Stupid just gets better every single week. It's time to give a little bit of shout out to the people that are hanging out live in the Squatchers Lounge podcast chat room. That's right, we have one of those. Hey, the first one looks like I can say hi to tonight. It'll be Frank Smith, followed by a Dave Jackson, then our friend Starshine. How you doing, sweetheart? Glad you could join us tonight. You guys talk a lot before the show, so I'm going to have to skip down here quite a bit. So if I miss some of you people, I'm so sorry. Frank Smith, Dave Jackson, Starship, y'all, Rod Dupree, I know you're in the house and the place to be as usual. Cameron Young, glad you joined us as well. Let's see, Dave Stumpf, how you doing, buddy? Glad you could join us as well. Who else is hanging out with us? Gin! That's right, he's out there. Caller Wilmas, that's right, he's with us as well. Let's see here, we're going to skip down the list here a little bit, see who else. Slam Havoc, hey, that's right, it's the 4th of July hat. Me and 3.5 million Mexicans own this hat, and this is the week to wear it. That's right. Rock City Marco, hey, glad you could join us out there as well. The Life and Times of JCM. That's right. That's such Jeb Moore, our Jesus Christ of Monterey Bay. Midnight Hailstrom. That's right. That kid's supposed to be in bed by now. I'm pretty sure that's the way that's supposed to go. But hey, what do you know? Squatchy Ink's giving me hell about my hat, too. Tell me you like me hat, Shannon. But Joseph, you're not wearing a hat. Let's see what else is going on. Dean Cooper, that's right. He made it into the house before the show started, I think, as well. They are all just giving me hell about this hat. I don't care that you don't like my hat. Informant agent, that was no bear. That's right. Definitely not no bear. Julio J, I don't know what's wrong with your system, man. Everybody else is watching. You got to figure out what's going on with your stuff. Our stuff works just fine. Let's see here. Who else is flipping around out there? Boy, Julio's just having a hell of a time trying to watch the show. It just ain't working out for him so well. I'm getting down to the bottom of the list here. If you haven't left a comment, you're not getting mentioned tonight. That's the way that's going to go out. Kyle Murrow. Hey, man, glad you could join us. You got it in, and that's the last one that I can find in the show tonight. Glad everybody could join us for the Squatcher Sounds podcast. That's right. We're usually on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m., but, hey, it's a podcast. Shit happens. It's called life. What do you think there, Dr. David Batdorf? You ready to get into this Honey Island swamp monster?
Honey Island? Isn't that in Florida?
Well, no, not exactly. It's Honey Island swamp is outside Louisiana. Now, Louisiana. Now, I didn't say Louisiana. I said Louisiana. That's good. New Orleans, Louisiana is what they wanted to say it was. But let's give the people a little bit of an introduction here to the Honey Island swamp monster. That's right. The creature is described as bipedal, 7 foot 2 meters tall for you European fellows out there that might be listening, with gray hair, yellow or red eyes, and accompanied by a distinguished smell, or a disgusting smell as well. Footprints supposedly left by the creature have 3 webbed toes. Webbed toes, of course, because it's a swamp monster.
Swamp monster.
The first claimed sighting was in 1963 by Halen Ford, a retired air traffic controller who had taken up wildlife photography. After his death in 1980, a reel of the Super 8 film showing the creature and allegedly found amongst his belongings. In 1974, the monster gained national fame after Ford and his friend Billy Mills claimed to have found unusual footprints in the area, as well as the body of a wild boar whose throat had been gashed. Ford continued to hunt for the creature for the next 6 years. Now, that statement there, he searched for the creature for the next 6 years till he died. Okay, so he continued to look for a hoax? That's where my question begins. And a lot of times when we look at these things, we don't really think about it. Sometimes these people are so desperate to prove to others that they're willing to hoax just to get a little bit of help in on the situation. I mean, we've seen that happen before. And unfortunately, once you are a hoaxer, that pretty much knocks you out. But the guy continues to look for another 6 years. What do you think about that, David?
Yeah, an interesting conundrum. Why then does said person continue to go out after it's declared a hoax?
It's kind of like the deal of the smeha. You know, a lot of people, David, that David and Jeff, they backed that damn Justin Smeha. He's full of shit. He ain't never seen nothing. He ain't never shot nothing. Why the hell are we still messing with this guy damn near 7 years later, and he's put thousands of his dollars on the table still looking into it? David, show us where the hell Honey Island is.
Well, Honey Island or
the Honey Island swamp?
Swamp, because these are two different places. That's but right here in the navel of right
in the belly button of America.
Right in the belly button of America. The belly button's below, though. Oh, anyway.
Well, with some of us it is. You never know.
So
it's called a Dunlop, David. I'm wearing the same size pants I wore in high school.
So this is the New Orleans area.
New Orleans.
And we've got the Honey Island, which is down here, which is also not very much inhabited. But then also the Honey Island swamp is like, hey, that's looking a little bit greener, looking a little less like Delta flatlands. Okay, my bipedal primate probably not hiding out here as well as said here with the trees and the whatnots.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hide out in the open like that. But, just like with anything else, they may travel from yonder to yonder.
Exactly. So what we have here is Honey Island Swamp surrounded by Middle River Island. It's right outside of town. But it looks like rural kind of, spotty areas after that. But when you look at it in the big picture again, you see our Appalachian Mountains coming down and this water shedding area, which happens to be a very large river, and the rain shadowing effect that happens when you have mountains, river bottom, yada, yada, yada. We see this time and time again, and right down in here in this drainage area.
Because before the time of New Orleans, before the time of Middle Island, the town, all of that was empty. If there were creatures there, the creatures would still be there, because like we've talked about in the past, how many hundreds of years does it take a creature that lives to be 80 to actually outbreed itself?
Exactly. 80, 60 even. I mean, we're talking about 30 or 40 years worth of story, which whether or not there's creatures there now or 30 or 40 years ago, turn of the century, we're talking about animals that could still be alive, right? And we hear about these stories as we, stamp them out like so much fauna. But what you have is this nice kind of rural area, and this really, this is a good protected river system right here.
Yeah, I mean, you could most definitely see 1,000 deer every 10 miles in a location like that and never see any of them.
And as you come back into the more reasonable civilization, that's where we start seeing this Honey Island swamp story. Now, are there creatures there today? Were there creatures there then? Or was the story still there? But if you look at it if you imagine unpopulated U.S., we have our dry area because of the Sierras over here. This is like the Himalayan. This is the Gobi Desert of Asia,
right?
And then the Pacific coast of California. This is like Nepal and Bhutan, right? You come over here, and now we're looking at like the Mekong Delta, what have you, if you're going to use Asia as your separate analog. And if you think about unpopulated area and where's the most resource, where does all of that nutrient flow down into, Mississippi's probably a pretty big deal, right? So where I'm always interested, where does the story come from? Where is the reasonable analog? And okay, are we going to get into the skunk ape versus Bigfoot thing? Or
that becomes the next question. Let's go back and talk a little bit more about the Honey Island deal here. Now, in folklore, the legend tells of a train wreck in the area in the early 20th century. A traveling circus was on that train, and from it, a group of chimpanzees escaped and interbred with the local alligator population, creating such folklore as the Honey Island Swamp Monster, because they're not really calling it a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch. Now, the Honey Island Swamp Monster was the subject of the Secret Saturdays episode of the Ghost in the Machine. The creature has been featured on episode of the Lost Tapes, of course, Swamp Creature. It was in search of the Swamp Monster. Fact or fake, did a piece on it. Swamp People even mentioned it. So it's something that just keeps getting brought up over and over again. But that becomes the question then. is there something different than a Bigfoot in the swamps of America? Now, around Lake Okeechobee was where I had that weird interaction with a primate. I can't call it a Bigfoot because it didn't look like a Bigfoot. I've seen a Bigfoot. I know what a Bigfoot looked like. Okay, I know what a Bigfoot looks like. I kind of know what a Bigfoot acts like. This thing didn't do either. This thing acted like a pissed off monkey that was mad that we were in its space. And when we were finally confronted face to face, it threw feces at us. And then when it realized it couldn't reach the boat and we were leaving the area, it turned and stomped off. Now that's the problem I have with this thing that I encountered is it walked off. It didn't chimpanzee off. It didn't orangutan off. No, this fucking thing walked off. I'm going this way and my legs work like yours. I mean, it literally just stomped off into the water, into the wetland area, and in 7 paces it was gone. The whole sighting encounter lasted 25 seconds, maybe. I mean, how long does it take for something to throw poop at you and you run like hell? I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot of time. I wasn't in control of the running like hell. But
I'm being showered by feces.
If something lived constantly and evolved constantly in a swamp and its feet were constantly in the water, wouldn't you think it would have webbed feet like the three-toed prints that they claim of the Honey Island swamp monster?
Definitely a point of contention. But as evolution shows us, if
our feet are webbed.
Yeah, we have webbed fingers and toes, a product of our evolution.
Right.
They're not terribly webbed
anymore. We don't really know how webbed they were before.
Are you going mermaid theory on me, Jeff?
Oh no, I'm just saying we don't really know what the webbing in a Neanderthal's fingers look like.
Yeah, or Denisovan, or
right,
whatever else.
We don't have soft tissue samples from those animals, or those specimens. Sorry, ancestors. That's kind of mean. That's like taking Quit's head and looking deeply into its eyes and talking about how it's not a monster. Man.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, but the whole idea is that yes, that could be a selected trait, but it's going to have. I mean, that's going to have millions of years behind it. And when did that creature get here versus when did the Sasquatch creature that doesn't have that get here? You'd have to really think about that logically and be like, okay, if we only have access at certain points, that's something that's going to have been here a lot longer than, we say, Bigfoot or the hominids have been.
Here's another example. Chester Moore. I don't remember what special it was, whether it was a Nat Geo special, but it was one of the TV documentaries where they were in eastern Texas on the rivers and the swamps down there looking for the Texas Bigfoot. And it, too, had a three-toed kind of webbed foot. Those were the kind of tracks that they were finding. And that's still in that same kind of a bayou that leads right into New Orleans and Louisiana and the swamps of, of the peninsula of Florida. So if you can make it from, in the realistic world, if you really want to do it this way, basically everything from the armpit of Texas swamp is all swamp until you get to Tallahassee, Florida, for God's sakes. Mississippi, Alabama, friggin' the whole bunch of them ain't nothing but swamp jungle, just like you were talking about, compared to the desert that's on the other side of it.
Exactly, and it's a very specific environment, so you expect that to be, the environment that either something evolved separately, which probably not enough time with Bigfoot coming over, maybe not, and But here's the thing, and you really got to circle back. We've been kind of playing with the concepts because it's fun to go back and forth. But they're talking about a webbed 3-foot toe,
3-toed foot. Yes.
Yeah, 3-toed foot. So really, you're looking at a bird.
Well,
a dinosaur?
A dinosaur? Is it a T-Rex? I don't know. However, we're still talking about those 3-toed prints being found in similar types of locations, being those wetland, constantly wet types of swamps. Are they just, goobered up friggin' great heron toe prints? I've seen some pretty damn big great heron, but they've never been big enough to make me think that they're, some kind of an alien raptoid.
Exactly. But the other, the other culprit obviously becomes, okay, is it a misshapen alligator footprint? And it looks long because the forearm, or like, the calf.
That does happen. I mean, gators do get busted up. I mean, the gators are cannibals. I've seen gators like missing a hand. So all it has is a stump, and the tracks are like the weirdest crap. You get like this hole and then like an alligator leg over top of it. So you've got like this 11.5-inch gator track, but it's really like the stump of the front leg and then the back leg in front of the stump of the front leg.
And then it gets rained on for a few days, and you don't know. But the whole purpose of that being a 3-toed foot versus a 5-toed foot. A 3-toed foot is no longer a primate. That's something else. That's a raptor. It's a T-Rex.
One of the things that I remember specifically Chester and them talking about were the fact that they thought that it was from inbreeding, and the fact that from being genetically cut off from the world of other 5-toed Bigfoot. That's why they were losing less footage. However, if you actually look at the genetics of things, the closer you get in genetic material, it actually causes extra digits, not minus digits. So you kind of end up with a hand right out of your forehead.
Polydactyl.
Yeah, exactly. So genetic lessening material wouldn't really cause that, but something's making those tracks. Somebody is seeing these upright beings walking around in the swamp, so it still leads back to the question is, what the hell are those?
T-Rex.
T-Rex.
We already asked and answered. T-Rex. No, but that's the. I mean, that's the whole thing, really. Like, we see these upright walking things, and then we find these footprints, and we try to espouse the footprints to the subject, yada yada yada. Back to initial problem one, which is, where is the good evidence? Well,
being in and around the water, that really isn't conducive to tracks. That's for sure. I can also tell you from somebody who's done a lot of swamp and creek crawling, for days on end, that water's not really all that conducive to keeping your feet in good shape. So an animal that's bipedal and dependent upon them feet being in good shape probably really wouldn't want their feet constantly being wet. That's why we invented things like hip waders and waterproof knee boots.
And why you don't find any actual aquatic apes.
Aquatic ape theory, that's right.
Yeah, the aquatic ape theory still doesn't stand up to me, because I'm like, okay, where are we have these, we have some monkeys that jump underwater that can hold their breath, and we have some other folks that do that. Yeah, okay, well, right, okay, that chimpanzee waded through the water once, and it was kind of cute, or whatever.
Right, and he only did it because the fire was burning his ass out of the island behind him.
So that's kind of cute, but that's not really a thing. Like, where are the aquatic apes? So, well, there's us, but we're not really aquatic. We can swim.
We had gills in the womb. At least that's what they say. That's right. Bam, hoot,
masturbate. But also, chimpanzees do, and they don't go back into the water, so there.
That's right. I mean, honestly, people don't really. I've seen a swamp ape, skunk ape. I don't know what you want to call it. It didn't look like a Bigfoot. It looked more. To me, it looked more orangutan. It looked more ape. It looked more not Bigfoot. But, in Florida, there are escaped chimpanzees. There are escaped orangutan. I mean, they've been losing animals from zoos, in South Florida forever and ever since we've had zoos there for hurricanes. I'm not saying that wasn't it. But if that's what it was, it definitely learned to walk like a man. And not need to balance itself from having, a 1 meter leg. It has a 4 meter body but a 1 meter leg. I mean, that's what an orangutan has. It doesn't have the capability of standing up and walking away. So I've seen it firsthand. I'm not going to convince anybody from my firsthand account that there is some kind of a swamp ape in South Florida. But what do you do when you eyeballed it? You just have to accept it for what the encounter was, no?
Exactly. Like, if you can't rule out anything else, apes that walk through the water, they definitely walk upright. And that's the interesting thing about the swamp ape versus Bigfoot. Bigfoot's doing this like up in the mountains, not not even wading through the streams, walking down the empty creek bed. And then you have these other creatures that are seen in and around water, and does that make more sense? Because you have to stand up if you're going to wade through the water, or else the water goes in your nose, and nobody likes that. So
definitely, nobody likes water.
We've seen the pictures of the bonobos and orangutans wading through the water, and they go and they put their arms up. If you got comfortable, you could have your arms down. It would look very much like walking like a man, and probably even more interestingly if a positively buoyant creature was going through. But here's the other thing: we also we know what these other creatures are. We know what their habits are, and why wouldn't we know? Why wouldn't we find dead orangutans? If there were orangutans all over the place to find, why wouldn't you find dead orangutans? Why wouldn't you find live orangutans? So you have to, you can't just always say that, okay, here's the most logical explanation. You also have to bear that out with an answer too. So that's the crux of cryptozoology. It's you can't answer one way or the other, but it's very interesting to think all the way through.
It is definitely a subject of questions and not really a subject of answers. If you need a whole lot of answers, cryptozoology is probably not the study for you. All I can do is go out and run hypothesis and see how a theory may be formed from that. And until I get a theory that works, I really can't move forward. And when we're searching millions upon millions of acres, it gets a little daunting in time.
I've experienced that myself. Like, I have a really great thought in my mind about how research should go and how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna accomplish a few goals and just like talk about it and show people the light. And then you get out there and you're like, this is way too big for me.
Yeah, you literally need a research team of 100 people to cover a side of a mountain.
I couldn't even go out and make a point like visually on video that, hey, look, this is easy. I'm like, no. And even like accomplishing a couple tasks was like a lot. And then I had a child, and then I'm like, nah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll get back to it.
Yeah, stand by.
Well, that is definitely going to wrap it up for our thoughts upon the swamp Bigfoots of the area. Are they out there? Something's out there. People see them. People encounter them. The Surge Group, the Sasquatch Unlimited Research Group, those guys are down there in Louisiana. They're out there in the swamps and in and around those areas, and for sure they thinking, that they're getting positive Bigfoot experiences going on. So you might want to check those guys out, see what kind of stuff they've got going on. I don't know. Nobody here has the answers. If you're looking for answers, you're on the wrong show. But we ask a lot of questions, and we postulate a lot on what those answers might be on. We are actually going to have a public hangout. That's right. We're going to start another hangout. We're going to invite you people from the public to come join us, but we have a maximum of 8 people that can join, and I believe there's already like 4 of us that are hosts that are going to be on board. So bear with us. We have limited room. Stay in the chat if you're interested in coming to hang out with us tonight, and I will make sure that you at least get in to say hi. David, any final thoughts on the Honey Island Swamp Monster?
It's not in Florida.
Yeah, it's definitely not in Florida. Hey, come join us next week when we're going to be talking about this weird Bigfoot from the Philippines called the Capre and the Eastern Samar and the Philippines. Grant's had a speech on it that I did that I saw on the Chinese Wild Man, and from the 1997 Bigfoot Symposium in Vancouver, and they brought this up there. So I really thought it'd be interesting to talk about next week. How in the world would there be Sam Squanch type animals on the islands of the Philippines? So that'll be really interesting. Also join us Monday
night. That's how
they
got to Australia.
That's how they got there. Join us Monday night for Bigfoot Entertainment Weekly when we're doing Werewolf versus Yeti, banned in the UK. That ought to be badass. So that'll be Monday night at 8 p.m. as well. I want to thank everybody for watching us and joining us for the Squatchers Lounge podcast tonight. And you don't have to go home, but May the Squatch be with you. It's going to take like 5 minutes to get everything set up on the Hangouts. So just chill with me and stay in chat, and I will get the link out to everybody I can.
That's a hairy son of a bitch.
But you had an extra leg.
He's got 10 toes total, but only 3 for a foot.